Hi, and thank you so much for joining me again. Today I'm doing the challenge from Amy for the Hey Little Magpie Chat and Inspiration Group Cyber Crop. This is challenge number 2, and Amy's challenge was a sketch mashup challenge. I've never done something like this before, and it was really interesting. So she gave us 2 sketches and she asked us to draw inspiration from both of them. You will have seen them at the beginning of this video. Straight away I thought of this paper from 49 and Market with the circle on it. I just wanted to add a little bit of texture to it, so before I started filming I stitched some lines just round and round it in white cotton just to add a little bit of texture, like I say. And then I've chosen this photo, which is a picture of my husband and his dad, in Southport back in 2015. We took him up there for the day, went out for a nice lunch and then went down the pier. So these colours in the photo go perfectly with this paper and with the Spectrum Sherbet range because of all the blues and greens that they're all wearing. So I wanted to mat first on white and then onto this 6x8 paper. I really like the paint tabs down the side, so I'm just trimming a little bit off the edge so that they show when it's matted on. And then I'm going to go in with my Tim Holtz edge distresser and distress all the edges on both the papers. This edge distresser has been a life changer for me. I've used to use scissors, but I was always wary of nicking the paper, but this just makes it really quick and easy. So I'd highly recommend one if you haven't got one already. So just go around all the edges on the white, and then once I've done that I'll distress the edges on the paper mat. So this is drawing inspiration from the second sketch where the photo was matted. So the shape of the layout is predominantly from the first sketch. I really like these L-shape layouts with the photo settled in the L. I've done that quite a few times before, and I love adding the circle element. So I chose a blue paper to contrast with the green to do the strip behind the photo. And I love this one, the way it's an ombre effect down from the tealy blue through to the green. At this point I'm still trying to decide whether to have my mat straight or slightly wonky, but I do go for straight in the end. So again, just distressing the edges so that it matches the other pieces. Making sure I have the green at the bottom and the blue at the top to echo Ross's dad's top and Amelia's top at the bottom. And then just trialling a few bits to go along the bottom of the L. But I wasn't happy with that paper, so I stick this down just to give myself a bit of thinking time. And there we go, I'll go with straight in the end. And I love how those paint strips on the left hand side just pop out. And then mounting the photo as per usual on foam. Just makes it stand up a bit, and also because these papers are quite thick with the mats underneath, it would easily make it uneven, so the foam is much more forgiving. Checking everything's straight, my trusty T-ruler. And then I go in with this stitched tape from 49 and Market. These are absolutely fantastic. I know Giselle uses them a lot as well, and they just add a bit more interest to a layout. So first of all, down that strip, checking that I'm happy with the positioning. And then I realise that I want to use them on the bottom of the L shape. So starting with this one, that's my favourite from the set. And then I haven't used this one before, so deciding which way round, and I decide I want the scallops that way. And then I want want to bring in one of the greens. Again, I haven't used this one before, so it's just finding the edge. And then I start there, not happy with that, so pull it up and go to the bottom. Still not happy with that, and then realise it needs to be above everything. And that's its final place. And with washi I tend to take it over the edge of the paper because they're quite low tack, so sometimes they have a tendency to peel up if they're taken right to the edge of the page. And now I just want to add a bit more texture, so I take an offcut of this paper. It was the bit I used earlier to map the stalk of the L. So that's the reverse side. And just want to add that to the bottom bit, just like I say, for a bit of extra interest. And I'd like to take it right to a point, so just ripping the last bit off. And have a bit of fiddling, deciding exactly where I want it to start. And once I've decided, then I'll glue it down. I'm really happy with how that looks. So that's the base of the layout, and now it's just a case of embellishing. And I reach for the rub-ons. I absolutely love these rub-ons. I used them on a layout last week to create a background. And this paper's already got the mixed media on it, but I still like to add my own take onto it. So I start with this grid piece, and when I take the backing off, initially I put it down diagonally, but then realise I prefer the grid to run up and down the way that everything else in the layout does. So move it round. And this is why I haven't stuck the photo down yet, because I want to be able to move it away while I add the bits and pieces. So just giving it a really good rub all around and checking that it comes off okay. And then going through the butterflies, I want to add some butterflies to this because we're outside. First I think I'm going to put it in that top left hand corner, but then once I've cut it out I decide to build up the embellishments on the right hand side of the photo. It would have looked nice there, but I decided to go with this. Just carefully peeling it off to make sure that nothing's left on the backing. And then I want to go in with one of the paler green ones. And I can never have my butterflies flying the same way, so one's flying off to the right, the other one has to fly off to the left. Just looking through to see what else I can add. I want to use some of these words, but I'm not sure which one, and I'm just having a look to see which bits would fit where. And then I go for this remember these moments. It's these day trips out that you easily forget as the years go by. So I thought that was quite apt. And at first I was going to put it to the right, but I know I want to build up the cluster a bit more on that right hand side, so I realised it will fit perfectly on the photo. It doesn't matter if I cover the kids' legs. So just taking my time with the pointed end of the tool to make sure that everything's rubbed down before I lift this off, because I really don't want to mess up the title. It's not so bad with the bits and pieces, the background pieces that I've got like that grid, if they don't come off perfectly, but this phrase I really wanted to make sure. And when I pulled it up, because it's quite a dark photo, I felt like you could still see some of the adhesive, if you like, that goes around the letters, so I just used that backing strip to make sure it was fully rubbed down. Now the next thing I wanted to do was add some leaves, because that was another element on the right hand sketch for the sketch mashup. So I grabbed a packet of the leaf rub-ons from the Spectrum Sherbet range. These are gorgeous. I'm just going through to choose which one I want. And I know it's going to have to layer over that butterfly, but it doesn't matter to me. I like the layering of them all. So it'll layer over that grid and then over the butterfly. Just like that. So I wonder whether to follow the circle, but then decide I definitely want it tighter up to the photo. And as I say, these really do layer beautifully. So just peeling carefully to make sure everything's rubbed on. And there we go, look at how gorgeous that is. And then I just want to extend it a little bit, so I take the other piece that I've cut off, and that single leaf, extend it at the top. And then with the other piece I'll extend it out to the right a bit. And now I'm looking through the laser cut elements just to see if there's anything that we can add, extra texture and dimension. I love these notebook pieces. So that I try it a few other places, but it goes back there. And then this green notebook, just to add another layer at the top of the photo. And then a case of going through all the ephemera to see what else we can tuck in and layer. I love these tickets. I don't like that they say 5 cents, but I can get past that, and I normally hide it a bit under the photo so you don't really see anyway. And this is the next part from the right hand sketch. There are a lot of circle elements on there, and I absolutely adore circle elements, so I wanted to bring plenty of those into the layout. So just going through all this ephemera to see what we can add. And that one that I've tucked at the bottom right hand corner of the photo says "Love these moments." And then another tab piece to add the date. I always do that. I'm just playing about layering things and deciding whether I want them layered or not, but I really don't like that look. I prefer keeping the elements all separate. And I want to put a strip at the top right hand corner, so just trying a few different things there. I pull out this butterfly, but I'm not quite happy with the colour of blue, and then I do find another one. So I'll swap that in a minute. I love this as a title piece, so that gets added. Just sifting through, trying to decide if I want to change the ticket, but I do like that one that I've got there. And there we go, there's the darker butterfly. So at this point my mum phones, so I have to pause the video, and while she's on the phone I just go through and choose a few more pieces and stick some bits down. So another notebook piece from the laser cuts, and then I want to start sticking it all down, so I want to add the date to that tab first of all. Stick that down. I'll start going around the other bits and adding them. I've already stuck down the circle cluster in that ticket while we're on the phone. I've punched out a circle, so that's just me showing that I'd used my 1.5 inch punch, and I've added some of that washi tape to a scrap of the offcut of the paper that I'd used before. So just building up a little cluster in that top right hand corner, just to add interest, and plenty of circle bits, like I say, from the second sketch. Just building it all up. And then I grabbed some foam dots to add dimension to these arrow pieces. There's one there, and there's another one at the bottom of the page. And once that's on, I just go through my stash. Oh, I'd put the title on the foam first of all. Again, checking that it's straight. Checking the photo straight. And then I'll go in and add my journaling just at the bottom. Just a couple of lines saying where we were and what we were doing. And then when I've added that, I just go through my stash and look for a few other little bits that I can scatter on. Just bringing that cluster down a little bit, down the page a little bit, to make the journaling tie in a little bit more, so it's not just sitting there underneath everything. And some glitter enamel dots. Colour just goes perfectly. These are Hey Little Magpie ones. And that's it. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time. Bye.